Another delivery of wheat, this one destined not for the flour mill, but for the biodiesel plant. Many countries are looking to biofuels as a solution to rising oil prices and diminishing reserves. But growing crops for fuel has caused alarm among many who say we cannot afford to divert agricultural land away from food production. They say that rising food prices are a direct result of biofuel production. But others say that a far greater threat is our agricultural system itself, in which we grow just a few varieties of crops, ignoring the hundreds that exist. José Esquinas is a champion of biodiversity. An internationally respected authority on plant genetic resources, he believes that we must preserve the whole spectrum of crop varieties or face disaster. Euronews met Professor Esquinas in his hometown of Córdoba, Spain. There's been a lot of debate about biofuels recently, and they've been blamed for causing rising food prices. How true is that?
There is an impact on that. They are therefore partially responsible. How much responsibility? It depends on the different estimations, what are done with different kind of calculation and by different people. And it ranges between 10%, let's say, and even 60% in a recent and power report of one of the leading economists of the World Bank.
There is another aspect to biofuels in that they encourage monocultures.
When we have all plants that are identical, they may all be resistant to certain diseases, but they may be vulnerable. If they happen to be vulnerable, when the disease arrives, the whole area planted with that variety disappear. You have a classical example with the Irish famine in the 19th century. The whole Europe were growing a single variety of potatoes. And when Phytophthora infestans, that was the disease, appeared, potatoes were practically eradicated from Europe, with tragic consequences in countries such as Irish, where more than 2 million people starved to death, and another 2 or 3 million have to migrate to the United States. The consequences were terrible, and there was no pesticide or chemical product to resolve the problem. The problem was resolved by someone saying, oh, what about if we go to the center of diversity of potatoes that was in Latin America?
You said that the Northern Hemisphere is reliant upon the Southern Hemisphere for 90% of its genetic resources. Is it as high as that?
Number one, there is interdependence in between all countries. No single country is self-sufficient on this matter. The average dependency is around 70%, but North is more dependent than the South. North depends on the South, in many cases, on more than 90%. And therefore, cooperation, international cooperation in this area is not a choice, it's a must to face unpredictable environmental change and human needs.
In the future, we're going to have enormous pressure on us. Our population will be double what it is now. The need for more land to grow food, the need to use some of that land to grow fuel, diminishing fossil fuel supplies. What can we do to stave off the threats that seem to be imminent now?
I wish I have an answer to this question. There is not a single answer, actually. It depends a lot. Where do we want to go? Which kind of future we want to construct? And for going in the direction we wish, we have at the moment more instruments than ever before. From resources to technology, we will be able to construct the future in the way we want. Point is which kind of future we want to construct, taking into account several things. Number one, we are in a single little planet called Earth, and we are intrinsically linked to each other, people and countries. If our little boat, Earth, get a hole, we all can drink. No matter what the hole is in the States, in India, or in Spain, it will affect to all of us. And therefore, we will be able to save all or to perish all of us together.
We know that we're running out of fossil fuels, but I don't think anybody feels that their food supplies are vulnerable. And what can we do about it?
We could try to reduce the loss of genetic diversity by having a slightly different agro-food system. We don't need to produce the same varieties everywhere. On the contrary, it could be good to have varieties more locally adapted. That's not against the production of new commercial variety, but not just a few to be internationally spread, but to be oriented to the local needs, the local agroecological condition, and the taste of local communities. I think at this moment of science development, we could afford to have the effort at a more local level.